Hey everyone, welcome to the program, WRSA Radio. I'm your host, G1. As always, hope you're having a good week. Been a crazy one, at least for the internet world this week. Topics we're going to go over, we're going to talk about. Well, we have the so-called outrage stemming from the new ad featuring a lovely young lady named Sweeny, who is I guess she's an actress and a model. I don't really know much about her, honestly, but I think she's an actress and a model. The other thing we're going to get into today is the explosion, again, in online censorship, which has become kind of a hot topic here the last week or so, due to the implementation of the new, hilariously named Online Safety Act, that went into effect in the UK. So first, let's get into the meltdown that the lovely Miss Sweeny has caused. Well, it's not her per se. It's American Eagle, which is a clothing company, a blue jean company, kind of like Gap or Old Navy, or some of these other stores out there, mall stores, as I kind of refer to them. American Eagle put out I would call it a retro ad that has the lovely Miss Sweeny clad in denim jeans and a denim jacket, and she's showing a little cleavage, but it's nothing too lewd. It's really rather tasteful compared to what you see these days, and it kind of reminds me of some of the old Calvin Klein ads back in the late 80s or so. And the tagline on this ad is really what drew the ire of certain denizens of the internet. It says, Sweeny has great genes. Now, obviously, this is a play on words, alluding to her genetics, but meaning her blue jeans. It's spelled Jeans. It's silly, but it's done in good taste, and I really applaud them for turning back to a young white female for the star of this ad campaign. It's just her and her jeans on display and her assets, and it's apparently going to work for them. At least their stock really shot through the roof this week in the wake of this campaign. People recognize that because of the attention that this has garnered, that hey, there's going to be a lot of people going out there buying jeans from American Eagle just on principle. Who would have thought that catering to your core customers and providing advertising that reflects them and their desires would work? It's crazy. It's amazing. It's like a miracle of marketing genius, rather than trying to create ads that pandered to very small fractional demographics and including an entire rainbow of people who don't buy your products anyway, just to make the ads, just make them more diverse and all that. No. Target your core demographic of customers, and it's just wow. Who would have thought that? It's just brilliant. Just brilliant. Well, of course, not everyone is happy with the lovely Miss Sweeny and her great genes. Feminists, lesbians, and black women hardest hit by this digital oppression. The multicolored hair land whales were out in force, accompanied by their strong black female influencers and commenters to denounce this unchecked, violent aggression of the patriarchy, cis white male, whatever. They just blew a gasket that American Eagle would have the nerve to feature a pretty white girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, and joke about her great genes in their ad. They've accused American Eagle of fascist dog whistling, or who white supreming, of course. And really, they're just big mad about this, and we're all supposed to be ashamed and boycott American Eagle or something. Now, I don't buy American Eagle. I haven't shopped there in years. Years ago, when my son was a teenager, he liked their jeans, so we would go there occasionally. I remember, looking at their clothing and at their jeans and everything, and they were fine, but they were just they were just more expensive than I was willing to pay for at the time. It seemed like a product that was, targeting younger people that, with a status symbol kind of thing. But I don't know. Maybe I'll have to venture back into the store and give them a whirl and see if I like anything that they have, just to reward them for having the nerve to feature a white woman in their ads without a whole host of others. And meanwhile, I venture to say that the majority of females who are demanding action for this outrage, well, for one, I doubt very seriously that they ever set foot in an American Eagle to begin with, mostly because the stores, to my knowledge, don't sell clothes for plus-size women. And two, they likely were not able to afford them even if they did. American Eagle should keep doing what it's doing and ignore this flack. We shall see if they have the corporate constitution to do that or not. That remains to be seen at this point. Now, moving on to the censorship explosion this week. Really, we've got two items kind of taking place, but they are in fact kind of linked because, well, similar mechanisms kind of going on here, with the same goal in mind. If you look into these happenings, you will be told that this is about protecting children. Well, if politicians ever utter the phrase, "This is for the children," you need to be very careful and very mindful of what they're doing, because the odds are it has nothing to do with children and everything to do with taking the rights of adults away. If these two cases, or in these two cases, this is about really access to the internet in an anonymous fashion. Now, before we go down the different rabbit holes here, let me say this. Several states in the United States recently passed laws that require certain websites, the ones that host adult content, to require age verification before they allow access to users. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with this law. I think it works, at least to an extent. There are ways around it, obviously. But it can be done in a very systematic and geographical way, and it limits to the people within that jurisdiction who are attempting to access that type of content. Whether you agree with that content or not, that's not really the question here. It's a mechanism here, because this really isn't about restricting access to adult content, even though that's what the politicians in the UK, it happened in Australia, it's happening in Canada, they're all saying that. Oh, it's about protecting the children. It's also what some politicians are trying to push here in the United States. Now, like I said, I'm not defending the adult content providers. They are some of the worst, scummiest humans on the planet. They're trash. But understand what's going on here. The politicians are hoping that you will assume that this just impacts those people, those content providers, offensive, questionable content, and the people that might consume that content. They think that you will assume, oh, well, this is, I don't do that. I don't have anything to do with those websites, so this won't bother me. I shouldn't have any problem with it. And again, if it's just specifically targeting those sites, yeah, it's not such a big deal. But it's not just going to target those people. They're thinking that you will, not see an impact, a wide-ranging impact on your day-to-day activity, and so you'll be in support of this. And this is what happened in the UK. People supported what was called the Online Protection Bill because they thought that it was, it's just about keeping kids safe, right? Not letting kids watch adult videos. But again, it's not. It's about requiring everyone to provide a picture ID to access the internet, which destroys what little anonymity that we still have. See, it's not limited to just adult sites. This is proliferating out into social media. So if you want access to any social media that might contain what they call specific or certain content, and they have defined out what is questionable content, then you have to verify your age by providing a picture ID. So imagine, I would like to access, Guns and Ammo's website. Oh, well, you've got to provide a picture ID to access that site. That's what we're talking about here, because they define one of their criteria is violent content or graphic content. Well, what's the definition of that? Now, the other problem is the sites are not doing this verification themselves, which I understand. They're outsourcing the verification to a third-party provider. But you don't know which one of the providers that they're using, and you have no idea what those providers are actually doing with your information. Now, supposedly, these providers verify the ID, and then after a certain time frame, 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever, they flush that data out of their system and they're not keeping it. That's supposedly what's happening. I don't believe it either. So, if you, like I said, you want to use Facebook in the UK, now you have to give your real ID. Now, you might say, well, for Facebook or those types of social media sites, or what I would call like a mild or mid-tier social media site, well, I use my real name anyway. I want to be connected with people from my past that I've known, and they know me by my real name. They don't know me by my screen names or whatever. Okay, that's fine. They don't allow adult content in there. Okay, again, fine. Occasionally, they do have something get through, but, it gets blocked. It's by an accident. At least that's what they say. Again, that's beside the point, because it's not just about adult content. The UK law specifically is being used right out of the gate to censor political ideology. If you're posting anything that is anti-immigration, and if a site has what they term it a large quantity of those kinds of posts or that kind of content, they're required to obtain ID. So anything that the ruling elite deemed to be politically incorrect, well, now you have to have real ID to access this site. So you can't hide behind a screen name anymore. And it makes identifying you much more simpler for the agents of the tyrants. They now can avoid having to trace through multiple lines, try to go to ISPs and all this and try to track down what your actual name is and your address. Well, now that social media site will have some of your information, your identification. And all they have to do is get a search warrant to get that ID from that social media site. And as I said, this is not just in the UK. There's a law pending in the US right now that would do the exact same thing here. So far that law seems to be kind of failing because really, in the UK it's failing. The day that it went into effect, earlier this week, I think Sunday night, I think was when it first went into effect in the UK. VPN downloads skyrocketed. So people are using VPNs to disguise their location and avoid these ID requirements. If you don't know how the VPNs work, they allow you to sort of forward your presence to some other geographic location, and you can get around geographically blocked content, which is not necessarily for nefarious reasons. There's a lot of shows and movies and things like that don't get distributed in the US or overseas because of distribution agreements and things like that, but people want to watch them, so they use VPNs to kind of get around those. And VPNs are a security feature as well. And that's going to be a problem, because that's going to be the next target of the Starmer regime over there. Some ISPs in England are already blocking the use of VPNs. which is, like I said, it's a security risk, and it's a problem for businesses that use VPNs in their operations. It will no doubt cause Parliament to pass another restriction demanding ID for VPNs or something like that. And again, you might look at these things and say, well, it's happening in the UK, and the UK is gone. That's the place that England used to be. I agree with that. But those things tend to migrate and become, hey, this is a smart idea in Europe. We need to implement that here. The next thing you know, it'll be going on in California, and then it's going to be here, and then all over. So, yeah, you have to watch for these things. You have to monitor them and maintain some knowledge of what's going on over there. Now, the other little rabbit hole of this, the video game world, where again you may say, who cares? I don't do anything with video games or adult content or video games with adult content, which is cool. That is great. It's good for you. But this is not limited to just that market. When I lay out kind of what's going on here, you'll recognize it. If you're into firearms, you'll know exactly how this translates to other things. If they have, success here, they expand. Visa and MasterCard online payment processors were pressured into dropping business with Steam and another online game provider because some of their game titles contain adult content. Now, keep in mind here, when I'm talking about these video games, I say, adult content. I'm being very broad in that definition. Okay, we're not even talking about some of the specific naughty sites level of content. This is a pretty broad definition of adult. Some of these titles are very mild, to say the least, or the titles themselves aren't the problem. It's aftermarket. There are game titles out there today that have a very strong online fan community, and they have a little bit of open source to them, and it allows fans to write their own code and develop their own graphics and things like that, these modifications to existing content in the game. And, there are fans that make content that is questionable. And so it's not even the game itself that's the problem. It's the fact that some of the fan-created content is spicy. Which is that's kind of out of the control of Steam anyway. Steam is a provider. They sell you the game online, or they sell you access to it. Things that happen after you download the game, they don't have any control over. Anyway, again, what they are doing is supposedly to protect children, but it's impacting the entire gaming community. Now, who demanded that these payment processors stop doing business with Steam? Where did this come from? Well, a feminist organization that, per its online presence, only has about 40,000 followers, and it's called Collective Shout, and they're based in Australia. So a foreign organization with about 40,000 followers pressures American companies to stop doing business with a target of their anger. And Steam had already capitulated to some extent. They had removed what this group had called the worst offender titles, the first targets of these feminists. And as you can guess, that was not enough. This organization was not satisfied, and they went around Steam to the payment processors, proving, once again, you can never compromise with these people. Until you fully submit to their demands, they will continue to go after you. And even once you give in, they will continue to hound you until you go out of business. It is a no-win situation. It's far better off to just simply say no, and ignore them. And in this case, Steam is paying a price for this. They're getting hurt because these Visa and MasterCard payment processors are refusing to process online payments to their online store. So it is hurting them financially. This is not simply Visa and MasterCard giving in to 40,000 Karens, though. This is Visa and MasterCard using the Karens as a pretext for what they wanted to do anyway, which is pump up their ESG score. You know, they're getting loans, they're getting viewed about how they're socially responsible and all that by BlackRock and some of these other organizations that are really trying to, they're trying to drive behavior. They're trying to force behavior using banking as a way to do that, and using payment processing as a way to do that. And again, we've seen this in the gun industry before. And make no mistake here, the Karens are not going to stop with games that have spicy content. They were going to keep demanding that any games that didn't have full diversity representation and their main characters are strong womans of diverse size and color, they're going to demand that those get banned too. So it's not about, oh, we're just trying to protect these children from this adult content. No, they are trying to destroy every game that does not push their feminist diversity agenda. It's not about protecting children at all. It's about the destruction of everything that is masculine and everything that is white. And you're going to continue to see more and more of this in the coming months, because YouTube has enacted a new policy that will utilize AI to try and determine the age of the user. And if the AI thinks that you're underage, it's going to restrict the content that you watch to children-only content. And then it's going to demand that you use an ID to verify your age so you can get back your account the way you used to have it. So how soon is it going to take for us to hear that adults are being flagged because they watched political content, and now YouTube wants them to ID themselves? So you can't have an anonymous YouTube account anymore. Pushback works, folks. We have to push back on this. We have to resist this. These are the little things that have to be stopped, because they grow into big things. They become bigger and bigger problems. Now that is all I have time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab. Nice crew and the Cold Fury blog. And I will see you on the next episode.